Welcome back in, my friends, to another beautiful night in the tavern. And for the first time in a while, we're back on our normal, regularly scheduled story for this evening. Alright, let's see who all we've got in tonight. We've got a new friend, Ghoul, over on the YouTube portal. Welcome in, my friend. And all of our regularly scheduled We've got Matty. Matty raided in. We need to give Matty his toot on the raid horn. Hang on a second. If any of you have never been here for a raid over on the Twitch portal, when they raid in, we give them a toot on the raid horn. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome, friends. Mary Beth, hello. Derek, welcome in. So very good to see you. Full name is Alexion Texacotl. Texacotl. That's an interesting last name. Do you have a preferred name that you like to be called? Alexion or Alex for short? It's good to start the year out in the Black Dragon Tavern. I agree. I believe the day is now complete. Well, we are. I forgot that we left off on a dead banger of a chapter for Harry Potter Book 7. We are getting ready to go into the sort of secrets that were left behind by Dumbledore. And again, keep in mind, this is my first time reading through the 7th book. Alex? Excellent. We'll call you Alex. Glad to have you, my friend. Hi, Castle. Esther here. You live again. You're on for a bit tonight. We're enjoying it. We are. We'll be on. We're going to do one chapter tonight. I have a bunch of work I need to get done. The lady and I have been rushing to get things done. But we're going to do one chapter tonight and a couple of songs. And however long that ends up being, that's how long we'll be on. And yeah. Captain Yumun. I'm just going to call you Captain. Welcome in, Captain. Thank you for marking us on your map. We're glad to have you. My brain is not functioning at the moment. Tongs, hello! Long time no see. It has been a while. Yes, it has. Heather, welcome in. We are reading. There are clues. We're reading Harry Potter Book 7. This is my first time having read through it, so I have no idea where this is going, and I have not read the book, and I have not seen the films. I read all the way up to Book 6, and I've seen up to Film 6, but I haven't read Book 7 or seen the 7th movie. I watched it in theaters, absolutely incredible. Oh, are you talking about Stranger Things, Erin? We're on chapter 18, The Life and Lies of Dumbledore. Didn't read up the top, just joined. No, that's alright. I'm just teasing. Because it is, well, I guess you're on TikTok, so we have portals open all over. You can join through Twitch or YouTube or Facebook or Kick or TikTok, whatever your preferred portal to join the tavern is. I heard the raspberries. I'm decluttering tonight. I'll be rocking. That's alright, Milu. You cried and you don't cry? Well, I guess that means it's pretty good. Oh, you're in for a treat? That's what everyone said. It's been a bit of a roller coaster so far. What had just happened was Harry's wand broke, and he got attacked by... What is the snake's name? Nagini. He got attacked by Nagini in the lady's house. Gosh, I can't remember her name. The one who wrote a history of Hogwarts. or A History of Magic. Batilda Bagshot, thank you, Matty. Uh, they went to visit Batilda Bagshot, and Harry ended up in a fight with a snake, and then his wand got broken. Thank you, Mary Beth. I appreciate you. Come in. Hello, hello. Welcome in. Good to see you, my friend. And now we are on the day after the wand is Bagshot, not Batilda Baggins. Aaron's in Batilda Baggins. That's funny. I'm hearing an echo. Are any of you hearing an echo? Hopefully, it's just on my end. It might just be the monitoring. Are any of you hearing an echo anywhere? I don't know what I'm on. You're still sad. You're still high on sadness. I didn't even say Batilda. Did you? I think you actually spelled it. Is it with the H? Bathilda? Batilda? I don't know. No echo here? Okay, it's just on my end then. That's fine. It's just, it must be just me, the monitor going off. Cassie, hello! Good to see you. Welcome in. No echo on the YouTube side. Wonderful. Tonks, I don't know if you're aware, but your name on YouTube for me is showing up as your @ and it is I love Nymphadora Tonks. Normally you just show up as Tonks, but they did an update a little while back and you're showing up as your @ So I'm unreliable. No, you're alright. You're alright. Back in 5, I am puppy sitting for a couple of days and a wee boy wants some love. That's alright, Bear. I didn't see you drop in, but hello, my friend. Good to see you. Well, so let's get our ads run over on Twitch because they're gonna make us do that anyways. So let's go ahead and run our ads on Twitch, and then we'll get into story time. How about that? Lorenzo, hello, good to see you. Welcome in. So very glad that you could join us, my friends. I hope you're all having a spectacular new year. We're already deep into it. 12 whole hours, something like that. 16, 17, what is this? 19 hours into the new year. You did indeed make it for story time, Kevin. Started late. The lady and I ended up being up till around 7 a.m. So I wasn't out of bed till around 1. I don't know either. Plus, I just got a new phone recently, so that might be another reason. That's all right. Luckily, yours is closer. Some people's ats have showed up as strange things, like Sage. His @ shows up as something very strange. So I had no idea who he was. But yours at least says, I love Nymphadora Tonks, so I know it's you. No, so if you respond, so in my combined chat, if you guys respond to each other on Facebook, I'll miss it because it doesn't pop up. Esther, was I up and away? No, I don't know. I noticed there are ads popping up on Twitch. I'm really glad I'm tuning in on Facebook instead. What a relief. Yeah, Twitch makes us run the ads, and while it does help to support the tavern, I'd prefer that they not make us run as many as they do, but it is what it is. Matty, checking in over on... See, Matty, your @ is showing up for me as Richard Texmo 9501. Darth Nexus, hello! Oh yeah, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Kemian. It's good to see you. Okay, we're gonna run ads over on Twitch. 3 minutes and then storytime starts. Tonks is my alter ego. Tonks, have you ever told me your real name? I don't know if you ever have. Because I can't remember. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't think I've ever known you as anything but Tonks. Have you ever shared your real name with us? Alright, we're gonna run ads on Twitch and then we'll be back. Obviously, I'm still gonna be here. I'm still gonna be talking, but... Matty being sneaky and failed. Well, you are like a bull in a china shop. You're like a china bull in a china shop, as a matter of fact. Tyson, hello, brother. Hello, everyone. Out at my dad's, not good signal. Just stopped by to say hi and Happy New Year. Happy New Year, my friend. No, it's Michaela. I think you might... No, wait, hang on. You might have told me that. My @ is before my brand name changed. Oh, see. There you go. Good news, too, Castle. I nearly completed the consistency edits on book 2, and It's barely past day 1 of the year. That's a hell of a start. Is there anyone on Twitch who doesn't have a subscription? I don't know. That's a good question. Of course, now people want to text me. I'm not usually this popular. Well, that's the tavern will do that to you. Tavern makes people very popular. I'm usually pretty good with names, Tonks. I've lived in 13 different countries and I've traveled through a lot of the world, and I studied linguistics when I was in university. So I have a pretty good grasp of language. I'm not going to say it's nowhere near perfect, but names at least, I take great pride in being able to get people's names. Alex, thank you for the follow over on Twitch, my friend. My brain's not working. Thank you for marking the tavern on your map, my friend. You should be able to find your way back the next time that you seek a story. While I enjoy Twitch sometimes, I often find it a bit overwhelming with all the comments flying by. It's hard to keep up. It is. Even I can't keep up with it sometimes. Which is why I tell everybody, if you say something and I miss it, because if I love when the tavern is chatty. I love when you guys are enjoying yourselves and going back and forth. I love that. I love when you guys are chatting and enjoying yourselves. So if ever I miss a comment that is intended for me, don't hesitate to say it again. I'm not going to get upset if you guys do. I love how here I can say I'm Pickle Rick. You could indeed. That, or it's the New Year. That too. I mean, I'm going to take credit anyways, Cassie. Now I'm sat down here in YouTube and Twitch. Excellent, Alex. I don't know if you can hear me because the ads are running on Twitch, but excellent. Waffles indeed, Milu. Waffles indeed. Did everybody get good sleep last night after that? How many of you stayed up until midnight? All the way until midnight. I know those of you who are in here with me stayed up till midnight. Gives the tavern the longest possible class on quantum magiphysics. Oh, good lord. Physics is outside of my wheelhouse. I am but a humble, simple-minded storyteller, my friend. I don't know if you could explain physics to me even if you used all the crayons in the world. I'm hearing this fascinating conversation whether I'm talking to you, the castle, or just reflecting on my own thoughts. Yeah, and I love the conversations that we have here in the tavern. They are wonderful. I couldn't fall and stay asleep until almost 4 a.m. Waffles and pineapple pizza. Oh, I see. I didn't see that one at the end. It dropped. It dropped down to the second line for me, so I didn't see it. Like I said, the lady and I ended up being up until almost... Frost, thank you for the gifted sub to... Who did it go to? It didn't tell me who. Thank you. Oh, to Alex. Thank you for the gifted sub, brother. I appreciate you for that. Skjord, hello, welcome in. Good to see you. I fell asleep during stream. Hey, that's good though. That's good. Not usually popular. 4 whole text messages usual, but not overly dramatic. But again, you know, maybe you're getting out there in the world now because you're socializing at the tavern. Or it's New Year's. I got so many text messages I still haven't responded to. Because again, the lady and I ended up being up until about 7 a.m. getting work done. Because we were lunatics. Yeah, I didn't wake up till like 2 o'clock. 1 or 2 o'clock, somewhere around there. I spent most of the night wide awake and finally rolled out of bed at 4:15 this morning, feeling pretty exhausted right now. I can only imagine. The lady and I have got to fix our sleep schedule. We are absolute menaces with how our sleep has been going. Feel free to take credit, Castle. You do us all a great service for the story times. Well, thank you. I stayed up till 11 only last night. I swear I didn't stay up until 4 a.m. fixing parts of it. That makes me believe that is what you did, Matty. See, when you say you didn't do it, it makes me believe that's exactly what you did. Alright, friends, well, I think that we're all back. Sinomi, hello, I'm feeling a little bit better, rested and fell asleep around 10 p.m. Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better. That's very good news. Starting off the new year with an upturn. Jerry, hello. I managed to make it to about 2 a.m., but it took slipping out of my chair as a sign that I should go to bed. And now tonight I gotta get my sleep back in order because I work in the morning. You gotta do it. Frost, another gifted sub from Molly. Thank you kindly, brother. Just sharing all of the wealth with the tavern in the new year. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Thank you, brother. That is very kind. It's very generous of you. Thank you. Oh yeah, Jerry, make sure you get your sleep. Make sure you get your sleep. You need to... Sleep is one of the most important things. We say this all the time. Sleep, hydrate, and get some sunlight, and make sure that you are at least eating. You need to get enough protein. You need to sleep. You need to hydrate, and you need to get some sunshine. Those are like the quintessential things to staying alive. So do those things. I didn't stay up even... What about... We actually all rang in until 12:30 my time. So we did everybody in the continental United States' New Year. We rang them all in together. I don't usually choose to socialize because I'm an empath. It gets overwhelming sometimes, and I'm very distrustful of people in general. So I choose to be introverted. I think that the tavern is primarily consisted of introverts who only come out and socialize here. Raise your hand in the chat if you are a introvert who only socializes in the tavern. Here I am, caught in the whirlwind of comments. It's like a never-ending stream, and I'm just trying to keep up with all the excitement. Yeah, it really can be. It really can be quite a lot, Esther. It is good to see you, Esther. Hope your day is good one. Dihydrate and eat and lasso the sun. Got it. That is not what I said, Matty. That's where I'm headed right now. Gonna listen to Celtic myth videos till I pass out. So have a good night, everyone. Have a good night. Good night, Jerry. Thank you for dropping in. I appreciate you. I hope you rest well and you rise tomorrow ready to face the day. The human body is essentially an emotional houseplant, more or less. More or less. That's a very hilarious and apt way of putting it. Yeah. See, you got Sonomi, you got Kemian, you got. I'm an empathetic introvert as well. See, Tonk says mostly, I find crowds as I get older to be overwhelming. The lady and I, we spend most of our time home working. I won't say I only socialize in the tavern, but it is my preferred place to hang out. Right. See, so it's a fairly common thread that most people, they prefer their, not even their own company. A lot of us prefer like solitude or quiet. I don't necessarily think that. Because a lot of people will say introvert and they're like, oh, well, that means I prefer to be alone. I don't think that's what it means. I think that introverted people prefer a lower energy of interaction. Because a lot of people like to be very hyped up and going and going and going all the time. As I've gotten older, I've never really enjoyed that, but I've had occasion where I will enjoy it. But I think that introverted people tend to just enjoy a slower sort of interaction. I'm intro and extroverted depending on the days. My ADHD decides sometimes I'm even introverted. Well, yeah, and sometimes you have a day. Sometimes you have a day and you're just sort of, low energy and you just want to kick back and relax, and it happens. Ken calls me introverted deluxe. I'm highly anxious by nature, somewhat introverted, but I'm more ambiverted. So you're using big words now, Matty. I don't even know what ambiverted means. Do you know what ambiverted means, Lovey? Do you know what ambiverted means? In regards to like introverted, extroverted? Does that mean introverted and extroverted? Ambiverted? Like ambidextrous? I'm using context clues from the language. Oh wow, I really appreciate you asking how I'm doing. It's not something I'm used to, but it means a lot. I tend to be a bit of a loner and honestly enjoy my lifestyle. Thanks for reaching out, Frost. Yes, I'm also autistic, so I don't do big crowds. Yeah, that'll do you in as well. I enjoy spending time with myself. It brings me a sense of peace as long as I've got my beloved Elsie by my side. I have everything I need for fulfilling and joyful play. Yeah, and that's the thing is I enjoy certain people's company. Obviously, I spend most of my time with my lovely wife, and we enjoy each other's company, which is It's kind of a problem because we don't ever feel the need to go out and do anything with anybody else because we just like to be around each other. We've been together for almost 6 years and we're not irritated with each other yet, so it's probably gonna last forever. We're gonna be stuck together forever now. I guess we'll have to deal with it. Ambiverted is in the middle. Interesting. Interesting. Huh? She says, I'll have to deal with it. I went to sleep a little before 9 p.m. here because I had to work this morning. But next door neighbor let his dogs out at 9 p.m. and howl and bark off and on for 30 minutes while I tried to go to sleep. Yeah, you can't have dogs outside on New Year's Eve. That's dreadful. Kodo was with us for most of the night last night, and then he got to a point where he was like trying to climb on the desk. So I had to go take him and give him a security blanket and put him in his bed because he was just trying to destroy everything. Bear says, I'm an extroverted introvert. I think that could probably describe a lot of the folks in here too. Yes, that's exactly what it means. Okay, well, there you go. I do try to voice my appreciation for the tavern and love for being here as often as I can, and I appreciate that, Frost. Honestly, if you guys are in here enjoying it, I don't ever have to hear that you enjoy it, as long as you are enjoying it. That means the world to me, but I do appreciate when you guys let me know you're enjoying something that the lady and I do. Because then it means I know that I can do more of that, so. And here's me single and trying to avoid mingling a bit and falling, yeah. Johnny and I have been together for nearly 18 years, and honestly, it feels like we just met yesterday. We really click and enjoy each other's company, making every moment together feel fresh and exciting. Yeah, that's really how it goes. Happens every night, and I usually can tune it out, but not last night. When I grew up, there was no electricity, there was no highways, no nothing. So where I live in the city now, and I've lived near cities now for the last 15 odd years. The best sleep I get is when I have earplugs in, because I can hear electricity in the walls, I can hear cars all over the place. There's so much hubbub in the city, and I am a country sort of fella. I prefer to be out in the wild unknowns. My sister's bestie asked me out today. Oh no, you gotta avoid those kinds of relationships, Matty. That's all kinds of drama waiting to happen. Like ambidextrous, that's what I think, Kimmy, that's what I thought. And Mary Beth said, yeah, so we picked up on the context clues of the language. Score says, what are you reading tonight, Castle? We're reading Harry Potter, which we should get into. I've been waffling. And Esther says, I enjoy the waffles. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the Irish countryside, and then when I moved back to the United States in my teens, I lived in the middle of nowhere. My parents had a ranch in the middle of nowhere out in California. So when I lived in Ireland, I lived in the countryside out in Cork and in Limerick and in Wicklow, and then I was in the countryside in Oslo with my uncle there for a while, and then out here I lived in the middle of nowhere for almost 10 years. And then when I grew up and I moved to the city, I realized how very loud the city is, and I don't know why people do that or idealize it. I absolutely adore the countryside. There's something magical about the wildlife, the majestic mountains, and the crispness of snow, cold weather that makes my heart say, I agree with that. I agree with that. I never said yes to her yet, though I'm partly considering because the girl's a sweetheart. Just take the time to get to know, that's all I'd say, Matty. Take the time to get to know. Need to find that farmland in Montana. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, Bear. Absolutely. Well, to be fair, Scott, pretty much all of Ireland is British Ireland at this point. There are very few places that are known. I was fortunate to go up with my grandfather, who is sort of a a lot of people would call him an Irish nationalist because he's very much about like Irish identity and Irish culture and all of that, and specifically our families handed down culture, because a lot of Irish culture is handed down in clans and families. So a lot of the different social and cultural and spiritual and traditional practices are handed down through families. Um, I thought it was only Northern Ireland like Belfast. It is, but England, like the British part of Ireland, Ireland was controlled by Britain up until like 140, 150 years ago. And so now, like, yes, technically Southern Ireland is Ireland now, but there's not a huge cultural difference between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. Yes, Northern Ireland is still owned and controlled by the British, but Southern Ireland is not terribly different. And Irish mix will tell you different. Like Irish folk will fight me on that forever, but you can go out there. There's not a huge Ireland, very broadly, it has Irish nuances to it, but a lot of it is still like you're not going to have an overwhelmingly different experience in Dublin as you would in London. Except for London is a lot more dangerous these days, but you're not going to have a huge difference in culture there. Now, if you go out into the countryside, like out in Limerick, or even like out in Cork or in Ossory, where it's still pretty isolated as far as like country folk go, there you'll get a little bit more of the authentic Irish culture and countryside. But in general, Ireland as a whole is still broadly very British. Shadow, good evening, brother. Welcome in. It's good to see you. I'm working on it. But we're getting old so fast, Bear. We're getting old so fast. Dark and Scotty, hello, welcome in. Grab a seat. We're just getting ready to start. All right, I'm gonna stop the waffles and we're gonna get into this here. Kimmy, you said I live on the very quiet part of the city on the edges. Yeah, when I was a younger man and I worked for Fiat Chrysler, I lived on the fringes of a very small city, and that was still too much to me. I very much prefer like the isolated country because my parents didn't have electricity. One of the homes I grew up in Ireland, one of my uncle's homes, he's got a very old house. It's basically a shack. Part of the floor in this house was still dirt, and that had no electricity, and the water was a well you had to go and pump the water out of. So, John T, my friend, welcome in. Good to see you. Yeah, my birthday will be very soon. We all end up dying very short. Yeah, it's a lot less time than we'd like, isn't it? Absolutely captivated by Irish and Scottish culture, the rich history, vibrant traditions. Chanting stories are woven into the fabric and heritage. There's something magical about the way these cultures celebrate their roots, from the traditional music and dance, breathtaking landscapes that inspire many tales. I find it all incredibly fascinating. I love Ireland. I love Ireland. I wish that it were not going in the direction that it's going, because a lot of the countryside is being destroyed, and a lot of Irish culture is very much fading away. There are some folks who are still fighting for the language and whatnot, and good on them for doing it. And I do my best to keep alive my parts, but I also wasn't raised in broad Irish culture. Like, my family's culture is not the same, and I didn't realize this until after I moved away from home. As my grandfather kind of keeps us all very self-contained. Like, we learn stories, we learn traditions, we learn festivals, we learn songs and things that our family has passed down for generations. The Amioraduit, sure. No, you're right. I haven't fluently spoken Guelga in 20 odd years. The last time I was speaking it regularly, I was 14 years old, and I'm so far away from being able to fluently speak anymore. As a matter of fact, my wife has decided that she would like to learn my family's dialect of Gaeilge, as well as what we're calling High Gaeilge, because it's what the common folk in Ireland would speak, as well as a little bit of Norwegian, because that's what my family speaks. My family speaks our dialect of Gaeilge, and then they speak Norwegian. So the wife has decided that that's what she'd like to learn as well. All right, friends, let's get into story time, shall we? The life and lies of Albus Dumbledore. The sun was coming up. The pure, colourless vastness of the sky stretched over him, indifferent to him and his suffering. Harry sat down in the tent. Sadly, I'm mixed with Anglo-Saxon. A lot of people trash on the Anglo-Saxons, but the Saxons have a hell of a history of their own. And obviously, you know, you can hold an old grudge about what the Saxons did. No, we still go. Hey, let me see. How long do we have until ads start? I'll check right now. I got a little timer up here. Yeah, 42 minutes until our next ad break, Frost. Thank the heavens. Write down your family's verbal histories and traditions and keep them alive for the next generation. Fortunately, I don't have to. And welcome in, Erin. My grandfather's family has been preserving their traditions for a very long time. Now we lost a lot in the 17 and 1800s. A lot was lost, and then during World War II, a lot was lost, and in the 1400s, a lot was lost. But our tradition is in preserving stories. Like our family tradition is in passing down stories, and we've done that for generations. And my grandfather passes that along. That's why we're sort of a bit of an isolated group, is we pass down those stories from generation to generation. So our family tradition is already based in doing that. And we even have some stories that people might have never heard before. Wait, did we get a raid? Archon Sticks, hello and welcome in. Well, we were going to start reading, but now we're going to start raiding. We were going to start reading, but now we're going to start raiding. Welcome in, friends. Let's get you a toot on the raid horn. Here we go. Will be, thank you for marking us on your map over on TikTok. Welcome in. Cover your ears, friends. Here we go. Welcome in, raiders. Grab a seat, settle in. You're in the tavern at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. Izzy Krause, author, welcome in. So very glad that you could join us. I'm sorry, friends. We're going to have to wait a minute to start the reading because we've had some folks raid in over through the Twitch portal. Welcome in. Will be, thank you for the 2026, my friend. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. Now, is it Acheron or Archon? How am I saying this? Any which way, welcome in. What were we all up to this fine evening? Can we get a shout out? That's all right, Archeon. I've been doing this for 10 years and I don't have one either. So you're absolutely all right. There we go. It's Acheron, Acheron, but sticks. Got you. Okay. Acheron Sticks. Got it. Well, welcome in, my friend. I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a story. Tonight we are reading Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. It's my first time reading it. And we do this every Tuesday and Thursday, and then on Sunday my lovely wife hops on and she reads for you all as well. We also do a great many story times about myth and lore and all of the things, so if you're interested in the beautiful art of storytelling, you'll find yourself in good company here. Grab your seats, fill your glasses, because we are just now into the thick of story time. Promethean Death, thank you for marking the tavern on your map. Enjoy back the next time that you need a story. What were we up to, Acheron? Isn't it a nice tangle? The lady had it made for me. And it's particularly beautiful because she got, speaking of family traditions, in our family, many of the, because my grandfather oversees many families, so he has other families that work under him. And each of those families has a sort of a tradition about an ancestor that was transformed into a beast at some point in myth. So we have a lot of symbolism in our family that surrounds trees. So here you have the Celtic tree of life. And then on this side, you have Yggdrasil. And you can tell it's Yggdrasil because it has, I have two different cameras here. So you can tell it's Yggdrasil because it's got the cosmos hanging from its branches here. And then the handle is a sea dragon, because one of my ancestors was at one point turned into a sea dragon off the coast of Ireland. I'm looking for the flight path to the tavern. Sadly, the physical doors to the tavern don't open these days, but hopefully someday they will. Someday soon, perhaps. Do the stories come to rest, or do they regenerate and entice? I think that the stories come to rest, but then they spend their time regenerating and enticing us. Happy New Year to you, Calcabot! I'm so very glad that you could join us this evening. Writing, what were we writing? I'm sure that some of it was. There's not a whole lot of documentation on what Druids believed, sadly. And most of it comes to us from Christian monks, which a lot of people get upset about the Christian monks having written things. But the reality is that Christian monks recorded much of history from the Middle Ages onward. And that's because they were some of the only people who were literate in the time and who were interested in recording what other people were doing. So most of what we know about druids comes to us from people like Gerald of Wales and the Venerable Bede and so on. Working on a shifter fantasy romance. That sounds fascinating. Shifter, so like shapeshifter fantasy romance. You're gonna get yourself in trouble on Book Talk with that one. You're gonna have all kinds of people just fascinated by what we do. Let me guess. Saxo Grammaticus and Snorri also dabbled with Celtic Pantheon. To a degree, Snorri was not terribly interested in what the Celts were doing, but he was terribly interested in what him and his father believed to be the best version of Norse myth, which is why Odin takes such a center stage, is because Sturla, who was Snorri's father, believed that he was a descendant of Odin, or Odin, and Snorri then also believed that, and then Hakon the Good also believed that he was a descendant of Odin. So there was a huge emphasis put on Odin being the central figure then in Norse myth. Werewolf adjacent, yeah, I love a good werewolf story. I'm not much of a romance reader, but I love a good werewolf story. All right, friends, let's continue. So, all of our friends from Acheron, thank you kindly for joining us. Grab your seats, fill your mugs. We're in chapter 18 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore. Kevin, thank you for the resub, my friend. Enjoy your Wraith Wisp meringues there. It's the last month for the seasonal tavern fair, so get it while you can. Izzy says, I should have been writing, but I was rearranging my desk. Hey, look, you have to have a comfortable space to do your work in, yeah? Odin put it about a bit. Yeah, it did. All right, friends, let's continue. I'll just start back from the beginning because we pretty much got booted as soon as we started. So we'll start back over from the start of the sentence. Chapter 18: The Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore. The sun was coming up. The pure, colorless vastness of the sky stretched over him, indifferent to him and his suffering. Harry sat down in the tent entrance and took a deep breath of clean air. Simply to be alive, to watch the sunrise over the sparkling snowy hillside, ought to have been the greatest treasure on earth. Yet he could not appreciate it. His senses had been spiked by the calamity of losing his wand. He looked out over the valley blanketed in snow, distant church bells chiming through the glittering silence. Without realizing it, he was digging his fingers into his arms as if he were trying to resist physical pain. He had spilled his own blood more times than he could count. He had lost all the bones in his right arm once. This journey had already given him scars to his chest and forearm, to join those on his hand and forehead, but never until this moment had he felt himself be fatally weakened, vulnerable and naked, as though the best part of his magical power had been torn from him. He knew exactly what Hermione would say if he expressed any of this. The wand is only as good as the wizard. But she was wrong. His case was different. He had not felt the wand spin like a needle of a compass and shoot golden flames at his enemy. He had lost the protection of the twin cores. and only now that it was gone did he realize how much he had been counting upon it. He pulled the pieces of the broken wand out of his pocket, and without looking at them, he tucked them away into Hagrid's pouch around his neck. The pouch was now too full of broken and useless objects to take any more. Harry's hand brushed the old snitch through the moleskin, and for a moment, he had to fight the temptation to pull it out and throw it away. Impenetrable, unhelpful, useless, like everything else Dumbledore had left behind. And his fury at Dumbledore broke over him like lava, scorching him inside and wiping out every other feeling out of sheer desperation. They had talked themselves into believing that Godric's Hollow held the answers, convinced themselves that they were supposed to go back, that it was all part of some secret path laid out for them by Dumbledore. But there was no map, no plan. Dumbledore had left them to grope in the darkness, to wrestle the unknown and undreamed of terrors, alone and unaided. Nothing was explained, nothing was given freely. They had no sword, and now Harry had no wand. And he had dropped the photograph of the thief. And it would surely be easy for Voldemort to find out who he was. Voldemort had all the information now.
Harry?
Hermione looked frightened that he might curse her with her own wand. Her face streaked with tears, she crouched down beside him, 2 cups of tea trembling in her hands, and something bulky under her arm. "Thanks," he said, taking one of the cups.
Do you mind if I talk to you?
"No," he said, because he did not want to hurt her feelings.
Harry, you wanted to know who that man was. Well, I've got the book.
Timidly, she pushed it into his lap, a pristine copy of the Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore.
Where? How? It was in Bathilda's sitting room, just lying there. This note was sticking to the top of it.
Hermione read the few lines of spiky acid green writing aloud.
Dear Batty, thank you for your help. Here's a copy of the book. I hope you like it. You said everything, even if you don't remember it. Rita. Think it must have arrived while the real Bathilda was alive, but perhaps she wasn't in any fit state to read it.
No, she probably wasn't. Harry looked down upon Dumbledore's face and experienced a surge of savage pleasure. Now he would know all the things that Dumbledore had never thought it worth telling him, whether Dumbledore wanted him to or not.
You're still really angry at me, aren't you?
Said Hermione, looking at him with fresh tears leaking out of her eyes, and knew that his anger must have shown in his face. No, he said quietly. No, Hermione, I know it was an accident. You were trying to get us out of there alive, and you were incredible. I'd be dead if you hadn't been there to help me. He tried to return her watery smile, and then turned his attention to the book. Its spine was stiff. It had clearly never been opened before. He rifled through the pages, looking for photographs. He came across the one he sought almost at once. The young Dumbledore with his handsome companion, roaring with laughter at some long-forgotten joke. Harry dropped his eyes to the caption. Albus Dumbledore, shortly after his mother's death, with his friend, Gellert Grindelwald. Harry gaped at the last word for several long moments. Grindelwald. His friend Grindelwald. He looked sideways at Hermione, who was still contemplating the name, as though she could not believe her eyes. Slowly she looked up at Harry.
Grindelwald.
Ignoring the remainder of the photographs, Harry searched the pages around them for the recurrence of the fatal name. He soon discovered it and read greedily. He became lost. It was necessary to go further back to make sense of it all. And eventually he found himself at the start of the chapter entitled The Greater Good. Together, he and Hermione started to read. Now approaching his 18th birthday, Dumbledore left Hogwarts in a blaze of glory. Head boy, prefect, winner of the Barnabas Finkley Prize for Exceptional Spellcasting, British Youth Representative to the Wisengamot, gold medal winner for the groundbreaking contribution to the International Alchemical Conference in Cairo, Dumbledore intended, next, to take a grand tour with Elfast Dogbreath Doge, the dim-witted but devoted sidekick he had picked up at school. The two young men were staying at the Leaky Cauldron in London, preparing to depart for Greece the following morning when an owl arrived bearing the news that Dumbledore's mother had died. Dogbreath Doge, who refused to be interviewed for this book, has given a public his own sentimental version of what happened next. He represents Kendra's death as a tragic blow and Dumbledore's decision to give up his expedition as an act of noble self-sacrifice. Certainly, Dumbledore returned to Godric's Hollow at once, supposedly to care for his younger sister and brother. But how much care was actually given them? He were a head case, that Aberforth, says Enid Smith, whose family lived on the outskirts of Godric's Hollow at the time. Ran wild, course, with his mum and dad gone, you'd have felt sorry for him. Only he kept chucking goat dung at my head. I don't think Albus was fussed about him. I never saw them together, anyway. So what was Albus doing, if not comforting his wild young brother? The answer, it seems, is ensuring the continued imprisonment of his sister. For though her first jailer had died, there was no change in the pitiful condition of Ariana Dumbledore. Her very existence continued to be known only to those few outsiders, like Dogbreath Doge, and could be counted upon to believe in the story of her ill health. Another such easily satisfied friend of the family was Bathilda Bagshot, the celebrated magical historian who has lived in Godric's Hollow for many years. Kendra, of course, had rebuffed Bathilda when she first attempted to welcome the family to the village. Several years later, however, the author sent an owl to Albus at Hogwarts, having been favourably impressed by his paper on transspecies transformation in Transfiguration Today. This initial contact led to the acquaintance of the entire Dumbledore family. At the time of Kendra's death, Bathilda was the only person in Godric's Hollow who was on speaking terms with Dumbledore's mother. Unfortunately, that brilliance that Bathilda exhibited earlier in her life was now dimmed. The fire's lit, but the cauldron's empty, as Ivory Dillonsby put it to me, or, in Enid Smeek's slightly earthier phrase, she's nutty as a squirrel poo. Nevertheless, a combination of tried and tested reporting techniques enabled me to extract enough nuggets of hard fact to string together the whole scandalous story. Like the rest of the wizarding world, Bathilda puts Kendra's premature death down to a backfiring charm, a story repeated by Albus and Aberforth for years later. Bathilda also parrots the family line on Ariana, calling her frail and delicate. On one subject, however, Bathilda was well worth the effort putting in to procuring Veriserum, for she, and she alone, knows the full story of the best-kept secret of Albus Dumbledore's life. Now revealed for the first time, it calls into question everything that his admirers believed of Dumbledore. His supposed hatred of the dark arts, his opposition to the oppression of muggles, even his devotion to his own family. The very same summer that Dumbledore went home to Godric's Hollow, now an orphan and head of the family, Bathilda Bagshot agreed to accept into her home her great-nephew, Gellert Grindelwald. The name Grindelwald is justly famous. In a list of the most dangerous dark wizards of all time, he would miss out on the top spot only because... Would you stop it? Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. No. Huh? No, it's the No, my phone was just started chatting at me. Listening. Sorry about that, friends. Santana, hello, my friends. Changed my name to match my TikTok. That's quite alright. That's quite alright. That's the reasoning and justification, yes. Awesome voice, big guy, thank you. I appreciate you. Welcome in, grab a seat. Sonia, hello, welcome in. Alright, where was I? In a list of most dangerous wizards of all time, he would miss out on the top spot only because you know who arrived, a generation later, to steal his crown. As Grindelwald never extended his campaign of terror to Britain, however, the details of his rise to power are not widely known here. Educated at Durmstrang, a school famous even then for its unfortunate tolerance of the dark arts, Grindelwald showed himself quite the precociously brilliant as Dumbledore. Rather than channel his abilities into attainment of awards and prizes, however, Gellert Grindelwald devoted himself to other pursuits. At 16 years old, even Durmstrang felt it could no longer turn a blind eye to the twisted experiments of Gellert Grindelwald, and he was expelled. Hitherto, all that has been known of Grindelwald's next movements is that he travelled abroad for some months. It can now be revealed that Grindelwald chose to visit his great-aunt in Godric's Hollow, and that there, intensely shocking though it may be for many to hear, he struck up a close friendship with none other than Albus Dumbledore. He seemed to be a charming boy to me, babbles Matilda. Whatever he became later, naturally I introduced him to poor Albus, who was missing the company of lads his own age, and the boys took to each other at once. They certainly did. Matilda shows me a letter kept by her that Albus Dumbledore sent Gellert Grindelwald in the dead of night. Yes, even after they'd spent all day in discussion, both such a young, brilliant boys, they got on like cauldron on fire. I'd sometimes hear an owl tapping at Gellert's room window, delivering a letter from Albus. An idea would have struck him, and he had to let Gellert know immediately. And what ideas were they? Profoundly shocking, though Albus Dumbledore fans would find it. Here are the thoughts of their 17-year-old hero as relayed to his new best friend. A copy of the original letter will be seen on page 463. Gellert, your point about wizard dominance being for the Muggles' own good, this I think is a crucial point. Yes, we have been given power, and yes, that power gives us the right to rule, but it also gives us a responsibility over the ruled. We must stress this point. It will be the foundation stone upon which we build. Where we are opposed, as surely we will be, this must be the basis for our counter-arguments. We seize control for the greater good, and from this it follows that where we meet resistance, we must only use force that is necessary and no more. This was your mistake at Durmstrang, but I do not complain, because if you had not been expelled, we would never have met. Signed, Albus. Astonished and appalled though his many admirers will be, this letter constitutes proof that Albus Dumbledore once dreamed of overthrowing the Statute of Secrecy and establishing wizard rule over Muggles. What a blow for those who have always portrayed Dumbledore as Muggle-born's greatest champion. Such a weird thing to quote a letter from when he's 17 years old. It's almost like people do this in the real world too, and it's absolutely infuriating. How was everyone? It was spectacular, Santana. How was it for you and Pixie? Thought it was a cat or a dog that was trying to join in. From where, Cordy? Good, we had a night in the tavern, Santa. Yes, we did. We all spent the night together here in the tavern. Not good. How's your foot, brother? How's your foot? Let's see. Where was I?
How hollow those speeches promoting Muggle rights seem in light of this damning new evidence. How despicable does Albus Dumbledore appear, busy plotting his rise to power when he should have been mourning his mother and caring for his sister. No doubt those determined to keep Dumbledore on his crumbling pedestal will bleat that he did not, after all, put his plans into action, that he must have suffered a change of heart, that he came to his senses. However, the truth seems altogether more shocking. Barely 2 months into their great new friendship, Dumbledore and Grindelwald parted, never to see each other again until they met in their legendary duel.
For more, see Chapter 22. What caused his abrupt rupture? Had Dumbledore come to his senses? Had he told Grindelwald he wanted no more part in his plans? Alas, no. It was poor little Ariana dying, I think, that did it, said Matilda. It came as an awful shock. Gellert was there in the house when it happened, and he came back to my house, all of a dither, told me he wanted to go home the next day. Terribly distressed, you know. So I arranged a portkey, and that was the last I saw of him. Albus was beside himself at Ariana's death. It was so dreadful for those two brothers that they had lost everybody except each other. No wonder tempers ran a little high. Aberforth blamed Albus, you know, as people will under these dreadful circumstances. But Aberforth always talked a little madly, poor boy. All the same, breaking Albus's nose at the funeral was not decent. It would have destroyed Kendra to see her sons fighting like that. Across her daughter's body. Shame Gellert could not have stayed for the funeral. He would have been a comfort to Albus, at least. This dreadful coffin-side brawl, known only to those few who attended Ariana Dumbledore's funeral, raises several questions. Why exactly did Aberforth Dumbledore blame Albus for his sister's death? Was it, as Batty pretends, a mere effusion of grief? Or could there have been some more concrete reason for his fury? Grindelwald, expelled from Durmstrang for near-fatal attacks upon fellow students, fled the country hours after the girl's death, and Albus, out of shame or fear, never saw him again until forced to do so by the pleas of the Wizarding World. Neither Dumbledore nor Grindelwald ever seems to have referred to his brief boyhood friendship in later life. However, there can be no doubt that Dumbledore, for some 5 years of turmoil, fatalities, and disappearances, his attack upon Gellert Grindelwald, was it lingering affection for the man or fear of exposure of his once best friend that caused Dumbledore to hesitate? Was it only reluctance that Dumbledore set out to capture the man he had once delighted he had met? And how did the mysterious Ariana die? Was she an inadvertent victim of some dark rite? Did she stumble across something she ought not have done, as the two young men sat practicing their attempts at glory and domination? Is it possible that Ariana was the first person to die for the greater good? The chapter ended here, and Harry looked up. Hermione had reached the bottom of the page before him. She tugged the book out of Harry's hands, looking a little alarmed at his expression, and closed it without looking at it, as though hiding something indecent. Bless you, my darling.
Harry.
She looked shook, but he shook his head. Some inner certainty had crashed down inside of him. It was exactly as he had felt after Ron left. He trusted Dumbledore and believed him the embodiment of goodness and wisdom. All was ashes. How much more could he lose? Ron, Dumbledore, the Phoenix Wand.
Harry,
She seemed to have heard his thoughts.
listen to me. It doesn't make very nice reading.
You could say that.
But don't forget, Harry, this is Rita Skeeter writing.
You did read that letter to Grindelwald, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
She hesitated, looking upset, cradling her tea in her cold hands.
I think that's the worst bit. I know Matilda thought it was all just talk, but for the greater good became Grindelwald's slogan. His justification for all the atrocities he committed later, and from that it looks like Dumbledore gave him the idea. They say for the greater good was even carved into the entrance of Nurmengard.
What's Nurmengard?
The prison Grindelwald had built to hold his opponents. He ended up in there himself. Once Dumbledore had caught him, anyway. It's an awful thought that Dumbledore's idea helped Grindelwald rise to power. But on the other hand, even Rita can't pretend that they knew each other for more than a few months one summer, when they were both really young and...
I thought you'd say that, said Harry. He did not want to let his anger spill out at her, but it was hard to keep his voice steady. I thought you'd say they were young, and they were the same age as we are now, and here we are risking our lives to fight dark arts. And there he was, in a huddle with his new best friend, plotting their rise to power over the Muggles. His temper could not remain in check much longer. He stood up and walked around, trying to work off some of it.
I'm not trying to defend what Dumbledore wrote,
said Hermione.
but that right to rule rubbish, that magic is might all over again. But Harry, his mother had just died and he was stuck alone in the house. Alone? He wasn't alone. He had his brother and sister for company. His squib sister he was keeping locked up. I don't believe it,
said Hermione. She stood up too.
Whatever was wrong with that girl, I don't think she was a squib. The Dumbledore we knew would never, ever have allowed.
The Dumbledore we thought we knew didn't want to conquer Muggles by force, Harry shouted, his voice echoing across the empty hilltop, and several blackbirds rose into the air, squawking and spiraling against the pearly sky.
He changed, Harry. He changed. It's that simple. Maybe he did believe these things when he was 17, but the whole rest of his life was devoted to fighting the dark arts. Dumbledore was the one who stopped Grindelwald, the one who always voted for Muggle protection and Muggle-born rights, who fought you-know-who from the start, and who died trying to bring him down.
Rita's book lay on the ground between them, so that the face of Albus Dumbledore smiled dolefully at both.
Harry, I'm sorry, but I think the real reason you're so angry that Dumbledore never told you any of this himself.
Maybe I am, Harry bellowed, and he flung his arm over his head, hardly knowing whether he was trying to hold in his anger or protect himself from the weight of his own disillusionment. Look what he asks from me, Hermione. Risk your life, Harry, and again, and don't expect me to explain everything, just blindly trust me. Trust that I know what I'm doing. Trust me though I don't trust you. Never the whole truth. Never! His voice cracked with the strain. They stood looking at each other, in the whiteness and emptiness, and Harry felt they were as insignificant as insects beneath that wide sky.
He loved you,
Hermione whispered.
I know he loved you.
Harry dropped his arms. I don't know who he loved, Hermione, but it was never me. This isn't love. The mess he left me in. He shared a damn sight more of what he was really thinking with Gellert Grindelwald than he ever shared with me. Harry picked up Hermione's wand, which he had dropped in the snow, and sat back down at the entrance of the tent. Thanks for the tea. I'll finish the watch. You get back in the warm. She hesitated, but recognized the dismal. She picked up the book and walked back past him into the tent. And as she did so, she brushed the top of his head lightly with her hand. He closed his eyes at her touch and hated himself for wishing that what she said was true, that Dumbledore had really cared. And so ends Chapter 18 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, my friends. A run needed rotors and my car's messed up. Foot is okay, been trying to hit the gym. 2026 isn't 24 hours old and it's already beating the hell out of me. Well, I was going to say, it sounds like you beat it back your own fair self. Christian, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. Welcome to the tavern, my friend. You've marked us on your map. You should be able to find your way the next time you see a story. Ooh. Hiccups. Susan, thank you for the heart meat. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated, my friend. Thank you very much. Oh. Woohoo! Before the next round of it, we did it. I've been boycotting this book, but I'd rather support you. Thank you, Bears. I appreciate you. Thank you for the heart meat. Tips to the tavern keeper are appreciated. I read book 6 back when it came out, and I was so disillusioned with how she had begun writing, because it seemed like she really didn't care about the characters anymore, and she was just sort of torturing them. And I don't like when that happens in a book. I really don't. Thank you, Kemmins. Appreciate you, my friend. Glasses raised and all that. All right, let me see real quick. 240. The next chapter isn't terribly long, but I do still have things I need to get done tonight. All right, friends. I will. Apologies, guys. I found myself drifting off while you were reading. The voice is so soothing. I find that to be a compliment. 2026 is a fresh start for me after 9 years of drama. I'm glad to hear it, Will. And you know how we say the rules at the door, all the drama, the dogmas, the doctrines, they all get checked at the door. And in here, we just have the stories. Whatever your needs, whatever your wants, whatever your opinions are, you leave them out there. You come here to get a story. And I'm glad that you got a fresh start. It's always a grand thing. Life is a constant cycle of renewal all the way up until it's time for us to head on into the next life. So, friends, let's see. We have a couple of minutes before ads start over on Twitch. We got 6 minutes. So I'll ask you guys this. I could probably power through another chapter, but if I do, we won't get to have any songs at the end. So, what would you guys rather do? Would you rather have songs and a little bit of conversation, camaraderie, or do we want to power through another chapter before we get to the end? Belinda says another chapter. Apparently there's a new 9-year cycle starting now. That's interesting, Roberto. Santana says songs. Corey says, I raise a mug of butterbeer in your honor. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate you. Esther says, please, reading is perfect. I love how people want to boycott the author by not buying the books. Like, I don't agree with her views, but the boycott will be ineffective. Boycott the author, not the book. Yeah, and again, I don't get into that whole discussion. I've never particularly cared for Rowling's writing because she's not a very good writer. I don't get involved with any of the things that are going on politically or socially. Whatever you want to do with your own life is up to you. I don't put any investment in it. I've got about an hour left. And I've got 15 pages in this chapter. So if we power through the chapter, we can really, really get into it. Year 1 energy, absolutely. Green-eyed lady says, read, please. All right, it looks like overwhelming. The vote is for read, but Santana, you cast in a song. So tell you what. Let's go ahead and we'll power through this chapter, and then I'll give Santana his song at the end. I'm here no matter how long it goes. I appreciate you, Frost. I appreciate you for that. So I'll power through this. Santana, pick your song, and we'll do it at the end. Lever Johnny's a short one. That'll be a good. We'll do that. Beautiful music, by the way. Thank you. It's a playlist that we use. It's just copyright-free things that won't get me in trouble. To all the folks who followed over on Twitch, thank you for marking us on your map, friends. Reading is perfect to help me drift off. Absolutely. I haven't been able to stay up long enough to get to the end of Storytime since I discovered it, so I didn't know there were songs afterwards. Yeah, we used to do 2 books per Storytime. Now we do the grown-up book is on Tuesday, and then we do a more family-friendly book on Thursday, and then the wife reads Juliet Marie on the weekend. And then usually used to be in between books we would do some songs, and then at the end we'd do some songs. And then now we do songs at the end to send everybody off. Tim, you said, hey guys, I need $500 for our collaboration. Just kidding, lol. That's a reference to Nerd Theory. Did something happen with Nerd Theory? I'm so out of the loop. So I don't know. I've been on and off editing the whole stream. Alright. Hey, thank you, Castle Rain. Hello, welcome in. Good to see you. I'm a firm believer in the death of the author. I'll opt for the chapter. Alright, let's do it. Tron Travolta, long time no see. Welcome in, my friend. Tomorrow I need to dive into writing my book, considering incorporating a vampire or maybe even a whole cast of vampires in the storyline. That is an exciting possibility. Vampires are fun to write. They're hard to write, but they're fun to write. Alright, we're going to do one more chapter, and then at the end, I'm going to send you all off with Leave Her Johnny, because our friend Santana's having a rough start to the year, and he cashed in a sea shanty, so we'll do it. I kind of missed the old schedule. It gave me more of a chance to catch the Harry Potter books and other family books. We may do a mix-up again this year. Well, we're going to finish these 2 books, and then we have the readathon coming up. So after the readathon, maybe we'll switch up the schedule again. We'll see what happens. Because we have, I think, we've got a little bit less than half of this book left, the Darkness at Sethanon, and we've got a little bit more than half of the Harry Potter books, but the Harry Potter books are shorter. So I think that once we're through, we're going to power through these 2 books. We're not going to vote on any new books until after the readathon, and then we'll do the readathon, and that will, after that, we'll talk about adjusting the schedule. W4553 is, what is that? Warrior 3, I don't know what that is. Welcome in, friend. So very glad that you could join us. Readabra Cadavra. Oh, now we're all dead. Alright, let me give a toot on the raid horn. So we're going to run ads for our friends over on Twitch so that they'll get an hour. We're going to toot on the raid horn. We're going to power through. And then we're going to... yeah, we'll do the readathon is what we'll do the readathon at the end of both of these books. So it'll probably be the end of January, beginning of February. Toot on the raid horn for our raiding in friends. What were you all up to? Here we go. Whoop. Blew everybody's ears out, woke everybody up. Welcome in, friends. Good to see you. Still German, so... Wassereis. Oh, okay, I see. Oh, yeah, a long time ago. I do remember you. Welcome back. Wassereis. Thank you for the chapter. For over 40 years, I've been captivated by the world of vampire stories. Something true. Okay, hang on. We're going to run ads over on Twitch. Something truly enchanting about them. I always find it rewarding to write tales and resonate with readers only. We never did get to have the Bar Staff Meeting Guild closed it. Yeah, I know, and we just got so caught up. We are still going to have one. Wait, we got Badgers raiding in too, good lord! Arthur Christie, hello, hang on. I have shoutouts I have to do, hang on. Yeah, we're stuck in ads. hang on. I did that literally just before Arthur Christie got in here. Well, welcome in to all of our friends. I don't know how many of you have subscriptions, but hello, welcome in. That being said, I'm always happy to be in the tavern, don't get me wrong. No, and I appreciate you, Deck. There are some people who really like the new schedule, and there are some people who preferred the older schedule where we did 2 books a night. Obviously, can't keep everybody happy, but I'm happy to switch back and forth between the 2. The only issue is that when we were doing 2 books per night, sometimes we wouldn't get to the second book because we would spend too long on the first one or we'd spend too long waffling. So this way it ensures that for sure we get to each book, but it does also mean that if you miss one day, you miss a whole book. So I was talking the other day about how the Count on Sesame Street is a vampire. He is, isn't he? Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and again, after the readathon, so we've only got maybe 4 more weeks with both of these books. After the readathon, we'll talk about switching the schedule up again. But I don't think Sesame Street knew that. And how vampires are OCD coded and love to count things, but I don't think Sesame Street knew that. Oh, vampires being OCD coded and loving to count things. Sesame Street, probably not. Who knows? I need a raid horn. You do need a raid horn, Bear. Everybody needs a raid horn. Castle, does the species name Slithveer give vampire vibes? Slithveer gives snake vibes. It's also a lot of Ys. I'm noting that you put a lot of Ys in your creature names, Matty. 30 seconds left, friends. Since I'm playing Hogwarts Legacy right now, I'm back on the Harry Potter films, but I was a reader of the books. When they came out, I was 10 or so. Yeah, I read through all of the books. My sisters were big fans of them. I didn't read through them until I actually moved to the United States, because I moved back to the States when I was 14. But I didn't read through the books until I was 14, 15 years old. And then I read the sixth book when it came out. And I liked all of the books up to the fifth one. I felt like the fifth one was a bit of a decline. It's like she was starting to not like or not care about the characters. And there was a lot of like retconning that started happening in the fifth book, because she didn't plan out the world as well as she would have liked. Because again, I've never really been a fan of Rowling's writing, because she's just not a very good writer. The world of Harry Potter is great, and there's a lot of really interesting and beautiful things in the books. She's just not a very good writer. Which obviously doesn't matter. She's a billion dollar book industry, so it doesn't really matter that she's not a good writer. But the books themselves are just not very well written. But I did read through them, and I liked the world all the way up until book 5, and then it felt like she started torturing the characters, and I hate that in books. I hate when characters get tortured for no reason as like a replacement for character development. Ads are done. Arthur Christie, thank you for the raid-in. Welcome in to all of the badgers. I'm sorry you literally raided in right after we hit ads, so I apologize for that, but welcome in. It's good to see you. I hope you all had a spectacular stream. Thank you for joining us. And for Vasir, I hope that you're also our water friend. I hope that you're also having a good evening, my friend. But by the time I got to the sixth book, like with the death of Dumbledore and all of that, it just really felt like she was torturing the characters, and I just didn't care for it anymore. I saw you'd just been raided and decided to double down. Well, I appreciate you for that. Thank you kindly. And I know a lot of people don't like J.K. Rowling. Again, I don't get involved with all of the social political tripe. I don't particularly care about it. I judge things based on their quality. I don't particularly care about the person. I judge the book based on its quality. People can like or hate whoever they don't like. I'm not here, like I've said before, I'm not a priest. I'm not a politician. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your life. Do what you want with your life. I will judge books and movies and films. I don't care who makes them. Books, movies, films, games. I judge them based on their merits, not based on who made them. It's like Black Myth Wukong, which is one of the greatest games ever made, in my opinion. No, maybe not ever made, but one of the greatest games in the last 10 years, maybe. It's brilliant in its writing. It's a continuation of the novel Journey to the West. It's very respectful of its source material. The game mechanics are great. The animation is good. The art style is brilliant. The characters are very good. Storytelling is a bit disjointed, but that's common for Souls-like and Souls-like games. I agree, Castle, 100%. Can't say I'm a big fan of J.K. Rowling, to be honest. Yeah, and again, like I said, a lot of people aren't. And that's you're right. You can like and dislike who you like. Black Myth Wukong is important because of Dragon Ball in general, for people to understand. Right. Because you connect with the characters on such a personal level. Yeah. And again, like, Black Myth Wukong was one of those things that people really should have liked, but a lot of people got upset about it because one of the guys who made it said some stuff that they didn't like. And I'm like, judge the thing based on its quality. You can get mad at that person and not like that person, that's fine. But judge the thing that is being made based on its quality and be honest about it. Son Goku is literally Japanese for Son Wukong. I actually didn't know that, so that's very interesting. That makes sense, because Goku is based off of Son Wukong, so that makes sense. But yeah, I will always judge a thing based on its objective quality, based on like a standard of excellence. That's how I judge everything. So whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, whether it's a television show, I will judge it based on its objective quality. And I say this all the time, you are welcome to like whatever you like. You don't have to take my opinion on things. You don't have to take my judgment of a thing. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, a lot of times, some of the greatest creators of all time, some of the greatest writers of all time were awful people. Hemingway was a terrible person. He's one of the most hauntingly beautiful writers of all time. His life was fascinating and incredible. But Hemingway is one of the worst people in existence. Not in existence. He was a really bad guy. He was morally grey all the way to the end. But, terrible people tend to make great art. Not always. J.R.R. Tolkien and Norton Juster are evidence that you can be absolutely brilliant and also make a great art. Same thing with C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis is another one of the greatest writers of all time, and they were very good men, very good people. So, is what it is. Journey to the West is the book to it. Many animes are based off these kind of books. Yeah, there are a lot of old, like, Chinese and Japanese writings that a lot of anime take inspiration from. How about I share my manuscript with you? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Yeah, Esther, if any of you have something that you would like me to read and give you my opinion on, you can email it to me, and when I have time, I'll look at it. You just let me know in your email whether or not you want me to give you my earnest opinion, because if I give you my professional earnest opinion of the quality of a thing, there are chances that it will be harsh. Matty knows I'm very harsh in the feedback I give, not because I want to be mean or be hurtful, but if you want to improve the writing based off of my experience, as I have got over 20 years of experience as a professional storyteller, as a classically trained storyteller. I've got over a decade in academia writing academic papers and studying academic literature and literature in general. And I've spent a long time writing and reading and helping other people write and read. So I don't know that I'm particularly qualified to judge anybody, but I will give my opinion based on what I believe objective quality is. So if you want to send me something, I'll be happy to look at it. Just be prepared for my feedback, and let me know if you want my feedback. Because, again, it can be harsh. Rain, you said, I'm like that with a lot of characters. I love good character storytelling. Good character storytelling is something that will carry even the worst of books. And I tell people this, if you are a writer, there are 3 things that can make a good book. You either need to have good world building, good character storytelling, or a good plot. Any of those 3 things can make a good book. If you have 2 of those things, it'll be a great book. If you have 3 of those things, it'll be a legendary book. But you only need 1 for it to be a good book. As long as the other things just generally make sense around what good thing you got good, that's all you need. Thank you, Castle. I truly appreciate your straightforwardness. Whether your opinion is tough love or gentle nudge, I'm all for it. Yeah, and generally, I try not to be abrasive with my feedback. So I'm not going to be like, this sucks. But I will tell you, I'm like, hey, this is disjointed, this doesn't make sense. If you're going to do this, you can't do this because it conflicts in the story. And again, Matty has been run through the ringer because he sends me his books to review, and I've gone through and edited a lot of it. Your feedback generally did fall in the good side for mine. Most of my issues were craft issues, from what you said, going on memory. Yeah, and that's what most people. Most people are lacking on the craft side of writing. All right, I'm waffling. I said I wouldn't do this. I got stuff I got to do. Molly Sue, I have to pop onto my broom and fly. Have a good night, everyone. Good night, Molly. Rest well. May you rise tomorrow ready to face the day. All right, back to reading, friends. I apologize. I got off on waffles there, and I said I wasn't going to do that. All right, let's get reading. We got 15 pages to power through. Everybody, fill your mugs. Grab your seats. We're back in. We're on chapter 19 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the Silver Door. I must say, a good waffle is good. A good waffle is good. Even a bad waffle is pretty okay. Benjamin, thank you for the heart, me, my friend. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. Poe too, yeah. Poe is another example. Constructive criticism. I don't believe in non-constructive criticism. I believe if you're going to criticize something, you should provide a solution. If you're going to criticize at all, you should be willing to provide a solution. If you're just going to bitch and moan about things and not provide solutions, then that's ego. That's ego talking. If you're going to criticize something, at least be willing to offer a solution and be willing to accept if your solution also sucks. That's just the reality of it. Okay, let's continue. Chapter 19 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. The Silver Door. It was snowing by the time Hermione took over the watch at midnight. Harry's dreams were confused and disturbing. Nagini wove in and out of them, first through a gigantic cracked ring, then through the wreath of a Christmas rose. He woke repeatedly, panicky, convinced that somebody had called out to him in the distance, imagining that the wind whipping around the tent was footsteps or voices. Finally, he got up in the darkness and joined Hermione, who was huddled in the entrance to the tent reading A History of Magic by the light of a wand. The snow was still falling thickly, and she greeted with relief his suggestion of packing up early and moving on.
We'll go somewhere more sheltered,
She agreed, shivering as she pulled her sweatshirt over her pajamas.
I kept thinking I could hear people moving outside the tent. I even thought I saw somebody once or twice.
Harry paused in the act of pulling on a jumper and glanced at the silent, motionless sneakerscope on the table.
I'm sure I imagined it,
Said Hermione, looking nervous.
The snow in the dark, it plays tricks on your eyes. But perhaps we ought to disapparate under the invisibility cloak, just in case.
Half an hour later, with the tent packed, Harry wearing the Horcrux and Hermione clutching the beaded bag, they disapparated. The usual tightness engulfed them, Harry's feet parted company with the snowy ground, and then slammed hard into what felt like frozen earth covered with leaves. Where are we? He asked, peering around the fresh mass of trees as Hermione opened the beaded bag and began tugging out the tent poles.
The Forest of Dean,
She said.
I came camping here once with my mom and dad.
Here, too, the snow lay on the trees all around, and it was bitterly cold, but they were at least protected from the wind. They spent most of the day inside the tent, huddled for warmth around the useful bright blue flames that Hermione was so adept at producing, and which could be scooped up and carried around in a jar. Harry felt as though he was recuperating from some brief but severe illness, an impression reinforced by Hermione's solicitousness. That's a heck of a word. Hang on, I gotta look that up. I've never seen that word before. Solicitousness. Solicitousness is the quality of showing eager attention, care, or concern for someone or something, often stemming from a desire to help or slight anxiety about their well-being. Interesting. Bear, thank you for the bits, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you kindly for the tips to the tavern keeper. Vets Games, hello, good to see you, my friend. Welcome in. Does the name Breed Oduvda sound better than your original name, Odagda? It flows better, yes, Matty. It flows better. Alright, let us continue, my friends. For all of our folks who raided in, for any of you that have to go off to bed, please don't hesitate to. I appreciate you dropping by the tavern. We'll look forward to seeing you back for story time again soon. Where was I? That afternoon, fresh flakes drifted down upon them, so that even their sheltered clearing had a fresh dusting of powdery snow. Thank you, Esther. I appreciate you. I'll make sure you get your tavern fare when you get in. After 2 nights of little sleep, Harry's senses seemed more alert than usual. Their escape from Godric's Hollow had been so narrow that Voldemort seemed somehow closer than before, more threatening. As darkness drew in, Harry refused Hermione's offer to help keep watch and told her to go to bed. Harry moved an old cushion into the tent mouth and sat down, wearing all the sweaters he owned, but even so, still shivery. The darkness deepened with passing hours until it was virtually impenetrable. He was on the point of taking out the Marauder's map so as to watch Ginny's dot for a while before he remembered that it was the Christmas holidays and that she would be back at the burrow. Every tiny movement seemed magnified in the vastness of the forest. Harry knew that it must be full of living creatures, but he wished they would all remain still and silent, so that he could separate their innocent scurryings and prowlings from noises that might proclaim other sinister movements. He remembered the sound of a cloak slithering over dead leaves many years ago, and at once thought he'd heard it again before mentally shaking himself. The protective enchantments had worked for weeks. Why should they break now? And yet he could not throw off the feeling that something was different tonight. Several times he jerked upright, his neck aching because he'd fallen asleep, slumped at an awkward angle against the side of the tent. The night reached such a depth of velvety blackness that he might have been suspended in limbo between disapparition and apparition. He had just held up a hand in front of his face to see whether or not he could see his fingers when it happened. A bright silver light appeared ahead of him, moving through the trees. Whatever the source, it was moving soundlessly. The light seemed simply to drift towards him. He jumped to his feet, his voice frozen in his throat, and he raised Hermione's wand. He screwed up his eyes as the light became blinding, the trees in front of him in the pitch black in silhouette, and still the thing came closer. And then the source of the light stepped out from behind an oak. It was a silver-white doe, moon-bright and dazzling, picking her way over the ground, still silent, and leaving no hoofprints in the white, fine powdering of snow. She stepped toward him, her beautiful head, with its wide, long-lashed eyes held high. Harry stared at the creature, filled with wonder not at her strangeness, but at her inexplicable familiarity. He felt that he had been waiting for her to come, but that he had forgotten until this moment, that they had arranged this meet. His impulse to shout for Hermione, which had been so strong a moment ago, had gone. He knew he would have staked his life on it that she had come for him and him alone. They gazed at each other for long moments, and then she turned and walked away. "No," said Harry. His voice was cracked with lack of use. "Come back." She continued to step deliberately through the trees, and soon her brightness was stripped by their thick black trunks. For one trembling second he hesitated. Caution murmured it could be a trick, a lure, a trap. But instinct, overwhelming instinct, told him that it was not dark magic. He set off in pursuit. Snow crunched beneath his feet, but the doe made no noise as she passed through the trees, for she was nothing but light. Deeper and deeper into the forest she led him. Harry walked quickly, sure that when he stopped, she would allow him to approach her properly. And then she would speak, and the voice would tell him what he needed to know. At last she came to a halt. She turned her beautiful head toward him once more, and he broke into a run, a question burning in him. But as he opened his lips to ask it, she vanished. Though the darkness had swallowed her whole, her burnished image was still imprinted in his retinas. It obscured his vision, frightening when he lowered his eyelids, disorienting him. Now fear came. Her presence had meant safety. "No mouse," he whispered, and the wand tip ignited. The imprint of the doe faded away with every blink of his eyes as he stood there, listening to the sound of the forest, to the distant crackles of twigs and soft swishes of snow. Was he about to be attacked? Had she enticed him into an ambush? Was he imagining that somebody stood beyond the reach of the wand light watching him? He held the wand higher. Nobody ran at him. No flash of green light burst from a tree. Why then had she led him to this spot? Something in the light of the wand. Harry spun about, but all that was there was a small frozen pool, its cracked black surface glittering as he raised the wand higher to examine it. He moved forward rather cautiously and looked down. The ice reflected his distorted shadow and the beam of the wand light. But deep below the thick, misty grey carapace, something else glinted. A great silver cross. His heart skipped into his mouth. He dropped to his knees at the pool's edge, angled the wand so that the flood of light to the bottom of the pool with as much light as possible. A glint of deep red. It was a sword, with glittering rubies in the hilt. The sword of Gryffindor was lying at the bottom of this forest pool. Barely breathing, he stared down at it. How was this possible? How could it have come to be lying in a forest pool, this close to a place where they were camping? Had some unknown magic drawn Hermione to this spot? Or was the dog, which he had taken to be a Patronus, some kind of guardian of the pool? Or had the sword been put into the pool after they had arrived? Precisely because they were here. In which case, where was the person who had wanted to pass it on to Harry? Again, he directed the wand at the surrounding trees and bushes, searching for a human outline, for the glint of an eye. But he could not see anyone there. All the same, a little more fear leavened his exhilaration as he returned his attention to the sword reposing upon the bottom of the frozen pool. He pointed his wand at the silvery shape and murmured, "Acio's sword." It did not stir. He had not expected it to. If it had been that easy, the sword would have lain on the ground before him to pick up. Not in the depths of a frozen pool. He set off around the circle of ice, thinking hard about the last time the sword had delivered itself to him. He'd been in terrible danger then and asked for help. "Help," he murmured, but the sword remained upon the bottom of the pool, indifferent and motionless. What was it, Harry asked himself, walking again, that Dumbledore had told him the last time he had retrieved the sword? Only a true Gryffindor could have pulled that out of the hat. And what were the qualities that defined the Gryffindor? A small voice inside Harry's head answered him. "Derry, nerve and chivalry set Gryffindors apart." Esther, thank you for the resubscription. I appreciate you. Thank you kindly. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. 11 months. What a legend you are. Thank you for the support. Do you have the locations of Twathaday Irish Science? I'm visiting next year, man. Message me a list. Well, it's on the 1st, so I guess this year. Yeah, send me a message, Vets, and I'll send you a list of the ones I have that both are historically important and the ones that my family find important. I just saw something. Falling asleep and work early in the morning, so I'd better get going. Good night, Cassie. I appreciate you. Rest well, and may you rise tomorrow ready to face the day. Welcome in, Joe. Good to see you. Heathen or not? What do you mean? As a Happy New Year present to you, Castle, it's deeply appreciated, Esther. Thank you kindly for the generosity. Discord will be easier. It'll be easier for me to get you on Discord, but wherever it is most comfortable for you. Cassie, your voice is so warm and kind, perfect for storytelling. Coda, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy yourself. Please grab a seat, fill your glass, and join us. We're almost done. We've probably got about 30 more minutes of story time left. All right. Where was I? Harry stopped walking and let out a long sigh. His smoky breath dispersed rapidly upon the frozen air. He knew what he had to do. If he was honest with himself, he had thought it might come to this from the moment he had spotted the sword through the ice. He glanced around at the surrounding trees again, but was convinced now that nobody was going to attack him. They had had their chance as he walked alone through the forest, and had plenty of opportunity as he examined the pool. The only reason to delay at this point was because the immediate prospect was so deeply uninviting. With fumbling fingers, Harry started to remove as many layers of clothing. Where chivalry entered into this, he thought ruefully, he was not entirely sure, unless he counted as chivalrous, that he was not calling for Hermione to do this in his stead. An owl hooted somewhere as he stripped off, and he thought with a pang of Hedwig. He was shivering now, his teeth chattering horribly, yet he continued to strip off until he at last stood there in his underwear, barefooted in the snow. He placed a pouch containing his wand, his mother's letter, the shards of Sirius's mirror, and the old snitch on top of his clothes, and then he pointed Hermione's wand at the ice. The fender. It cracked, with a sound like a bullet in the silence. The surface of the pool broke, and chunks of dark ice rocked in the ruffled water. As Harry could judge, it was not deep, but to retrieve the sword, he would have to submerge himself completely. Contemplating the task ahead would not make it easier or the water warmer. He stepped to the pool's edge and placed Hermione's wand on the ground, still lit. Then, trying not to imagine how much colder he was about to become, or how violently he would soon be shivering, he jumped. Every pore in his body screamed in protest. The very air in his lungs seemed to freeze solid as he submerged to his shoulders in the frozen water. He could hardly breathe. Trembling so violently, the water lapped over the edges of the pool. He felt the blade with his numb feet. He only wanted to dive once. And he put off the moment of total submersion from second to second, gasping and shaking, until he told himself that it must be done, gathered all courage and died. The cold was agony. It attacked him like fire. His brain itself seemed to have frozen as he pushed through the dark water to the bottom and reached out, groping for the sword. His fingers closed around the hilt, and he pulled it upward. Then something closed tightly around his neck. He had thought water reeds, though nothing had brushed him as he dived. He raised his empty hand, to free himself. It was not weed. The chain of the Horcrux had tightened and was slowly constricting his windpipe. And he kicked out, wildly trying to push himself back to the surface, but merely propelled himself into the rocky side of the pool. Thrashing, suffocating, he scrambled at the strangling chain, his frozen fingers unable to loosen it, and now little lights were popping inside his head. He was going to drown. There was nothing left he could do. At the arms closest around his chest were surely death's. Choking and retching, soaking colder than he had ever been in his life, he came face down in the snow. Somewhere close by, another person was panting and coughing, staggering around. Hermione had come again. As an owl hooted somewhere, had come again as she had come when the snake attacked. Yet it did not sound like her. Not with those deep coughs, not judging by the weight of the footsteps. Harry had no strength to lift his head to see his savior's identity. All he could do was raise a shaking hand to his throat and feel the place where the locket had cut tightly into his flesh. It was gone. Someone had cut him free. Then a panting voice spoke from over his head. "Oh, you mental!" Nothing but the shock of hearing that voice had given Harry the strength to get up. Shivering violently, he staggered to his feet. There before him stood Ron, fully dressed, but drenched to skin. His hair plastered to his face, the sword of Gryffindor in one hand, and the Horcrux dangling from its broken chain in the other. "Why the hell?" Ron panted, holding up the Horcrux, which swung backward and forward on its shortening chain in some parody of hypnosis. "Didn't you take this thing off before you dived?" Harry could not answer. The silver door was nothing compared to Ron's reappearance. He could not believe it. Shuddering with cold, he caught up the pile of clothes still lying at the water's edge and began to pull them on. As he dragged the sweater after sweater over his head, Harry stared at Ron, half expecting him to have disappeared every time he lost sight of him. And yet, he had to be real. He had just dived in the pool. He had saved Harry's life. It was you. Harry said at last, his teeth chattering, his voice weaker than usual to his near strangulation. "Well, yeah," said Ron, looking slightly confused. You cast that dough?" "What? No, of course not. I thought it was you doing it."
My Patronus is a stag. Oh, yeah, I thought it looked different. No antlers.
Harry put Hagrid's pouch back around his neck, pulled on a final sweater, and stooped to pick up Hermione's wand and faced Ron again.
How come you're here?
Apparently, Ron had hoped that this point would come up later, if at all.
Well, you know, I've come back, and if, he cleared his throat, you know, you still want me.
There was a pause, in which the subject of Ron's departure seemed to rise like a wall between them. Yet he was here. He had returned. He had just saved Harry's life. Ron looked down at his hands. He seemed momentarily surprised to see the things he was holding.
Oh, yeah, I got it out,
he said, rather unnecessarily, holding up the sword for Harry's inspection.
That's why you jumped in, right?
Yeah, said Harry.
But I don't understand. How did you get here? How did you find us?
Long story, said Ron. I've been looking for you for hours. It's a big forest, isn't it? And I was just thinking I'd kip under a tree and wait for morning. When I saw that deer coming and you following.
You didn't see anyone else?
No, said Ron. But he hesitated, glancing at the two trees growing close together in some yards away.
I did think I saw someone move over there, but I was running up to the pool at the time because you were gone in and you hadn't come up, so I wasn't going to make a detour to.
Hey! Harry was already hurrying to place Ron had indicated. The two oaks grew closer together. There was a gap only a few inches between the trunks at eye level, an ideal place to not be seen. The ground upon the roots, however, was free of snow. Harry could see no sign of footprints. He walked back to where Ron was waiting and holding the sword and the Horcrux.
Anything there?
asked Ron.
No, said Harry. So how did the sword get in the pool? Whoever cast that Patronus must have put it there.
They both looked at the ornate silver sword, the ruby hilt glinting a little in the light from Hermione's wand.
Do you reckon this is the real one? Asked Ron. Only one way to find out, isn't there?
Said Harry. The Horcrux was still swinging from Ron's hand. The locket was twitching slightly, and he knew that the thing inside was agitated again. It had sensed the presence of the sword and had tried to kill Harry rather than let him possess it. Now was not the time for long discussions. Now was the moment to destroy the locket once and for all. Harry looked around, holding Hermione's wand high, saw a flattish rock lying in the shadow of the sycamore tree.
Come here,
he said, and he led the way. Brushed snow from the rock surface and held out his hand for the Horcrux. When Ron offered the sword, however, Harry shook his head.
No. You should do it.
Me? Said Ron, looking shocked. Why?
Because you got the sword from the pool. I think it's supposed to be you.
He was not being kind or generous, as certainly as he had known that the doe was benign. He knew that Ron had to be the one to wield the sword. Dumbledore had at least taught Harry something about certain kinds of magic, the incalculable power of certain acts.
I'm going to open it, said Harry, and you stab it straight away, okay? Because whatever's in there will put up a fight. The bit of Riddle's diary tried to kill me. How are you going to open it?
Asked Ron. He looked terrified.
I'm going to ask it to open using Parseltongue,
said Harry. The answer came so readily to his lips that he thought he had always known it deep down. Perhaps it had taken the recent encounter with Nagini to make him realize it. He looked at the serpentine S inlaid with glittering green stones. It was easy to visualize it as a minuscule snake curled up on the cold rock.
No, said Ron. No, don't open it. I'm serious. Why not? Said Harry. Let's get rid of this damn thing. It's been months. I can't, Harry. I'm serious. You do it. But why? Because that thing's bad for me, said Ron, backing away from the locket on the rock. I can't handle it. I'm not making excuses, Harry, for what I was like. But it affects me worse than it affected you and Hermione. It made me think stuff. Stuff I was thinking anyway, but it made everything worse. I can't explain it. And then I'd take it off and I get my head straight again. And then I have to put that effing thing back on and I can't do it, Harry. He had backed away, the sword dragging at his side, shaking his head. You can do it, said Harry. You can. You just got the sword. I know it's supposed to be you who uses it. Please get rid of it, Ron. The sound of his name seemed to act like a stimulant. Ron swallowed, then, still breathing hard through his long nose, moved back towards the rock. Tell me when, he croaked. On 3, said Harry, looking back down at the locket and the narrowing of his eyes, concentrating on the letter S, imagining a serpent, while the contents of the locket rattled like a trapped cockroach. It would have been easy to pity it, except that the cut around Harry's neck still burned. 1, 2, 3, open. The last word came as a hiss and a snarl, and the golden doors of the locket swung wide with a little click. Nope, don't do that. Your mother confessed, sneered Riddle Harry. While Riddle... Wait, hang on. What happened? Oh. Behind both the glass windows within blinked a living eye. A dark and handsome... What is going on? Okay. A dark and handsome Tom Riddle's eyes had been before he'd turned them scarlet and slit-pupiled. Stab! Said Harry, holding the locket steady on the rock. Ron raised the sword in his hands, shaking in his hands. The point dangled over the frantically swiveling eyes. Harry gripped the locket tightly, bracing himself, ready, imagining blood pouring from the empty windows. Then a voice hissed from out of the Horcrux. I've seen your heart. It's mine. Don't listen, Harry said harshly. Stab it! I have seen your dreams, Ronald Weasley. I have seen your fears. All you desire is possible. But all that you dread is also possible. Stab! Shouted Harry. His voice echoed off the surrounding trees. The sword point trembled and Ron gazed down into Riddle's eyes. Least loved, always, like a mother who craved a daughter. Least loved now, with a girl who prefers your friend. Second best, always, eternally shadowed. Ron! Stab it now! Harry bellowed. He could feel the locket quivering in his grip and was scared of what was coming. Ron raised the sword still higher, and as he did so, Riddle's eyes gleamed scarlet. Out of the locket's 2 windows, out of the 2 eyes there bloomed like 2 grotesque bubbles, the heads of Harry and Hermione weirdly distorted. Ron yelled in shock and backed away as the figures blossomed out of the locket. First chests, then waists, then legs. They stood on the locket side by side like trees with a common root, swaying over Ron, the real Harry who had snatched his fingers away from the locket as it burned suddenly white-hot. Ron! He shouted, but Riddle Harry was now speaking with Voldemort's voice, and Ron was gazing, mesmerized, into his face. Why return? We were better without you, happier without you, glad of your absence. We laughed at your stupidity, your cowardice, your presumption. Presumption, echoed riddled Hermione, who was more beautiful and yet more terrible than the real Hermione. She swayed, cackling before Ron, who looked horrified yet transfixed, the sword hanging pointlessly at his side. Who could look at you? Who would ever look at you beside? What have you ever done compared to the chosen one? What are you compared to the boy who lives? Ron! Stab it! Stab it!
Harry yelled, but Ron did not move. His eyes were wide, and the riddle Harry and riddle Hermione were reflected in them. Their hair swirling like flames, their eyes shining red, their voices lifted in an evil duet. Your mother confessed, sneered riddle Harry, while riddle Hermione jeered. She would have preferred me as a son. Would be glad to exchange. Who would prefer him? What woman would take you? You are nothing. Nothing to him. Crooned riddle Hermione. She stretched like a snake and entwined herself around riddle Harry. Wrapping him in a close embrace, their lips met. On the ground in front of them, Ron's face filled with anguish. He raised the sword high, his arms shaking. Do it, Ron! Harry yelled. Ron looked toward him, and Harry thought he saw a trace of scarlet in his eyes. Ron! The sword flashed, plunged, and he threw himself out of the way. There was a clang of metal and a long, drawn-out scream. Harry whirled around, slipping on the snow. Wand held ready to defend himself, but there was nothing to fight. The monstrous version of himself and Hermione were gone. There was only Ron, standing there with sword held slackly in his hand, looking down at the shattered remains of the locket on the flat rock. Slowly, Harry walked back to him. Hardly knowing what to say or do, Ron was breathing heavily. His eyes were no longer red at all, but their normal blue. They were also wet. Harry stooped, pretending he had not seen, and picked up the broken Horcrux. Ron had pierced the glass in both windows. Riddle's eyes were gone, and the stained silk lining of the locket was smoking slightly. The thing that had lived in the Horcrux had vanished. Torturing Ron had been its final act. The sword clanged as Ron dropped it. He had sunk to his knees, his head in his arms. He was shaking, but not, Harry realized, from cold. Harry crammed the broken locket into his pocket, knelt down beside Ron, and placed a hand cautiously on his shoulder. He took it as a good sign that Ron did not throw him off. After you left, he said in a low voice, grateful for the fact that Ron's face was hidden. She cried for a week, probably longer. Only she didn't want me to see. There were loads of nights when we never even spoke to each other with you gone. He could not finish. It was only now that Ron was here again that Harry realized fully how much his absence had cost him. She's like my sister, he went on. I love her like a sister, and I reckon she feels the same way about me. It's always been like that. I thought you knew. Ron did not respond, but turned his face away from Harry and wiped his nose noisily on his sleeve. And he got to his feet again and walked to Ron's enormous rucksack lay yards away. Discarded as Ron had run towards the pool to save Harry from drowning, he hoisted it onto his back and walked back to Ron, who clambered to his feet as Harry approached, eyes bloodshot, but otherwise composed. I'm sorry, he said in a thick voice. I'm sorry I left. Oh no, I was. He looked around at the darkness as if hoping a bad enough word would swoop down upon him and claim him. He sort of made up for it tonight, said Harry, getting the sword, finishing the Horcrux, saving my life. That makes me sound a lot cooler than I was, Ron mumbled. Stuff like that always sounds cooler than it really was, said Harry. I've been trying to tell you that for years. Simultaneously, they walked forward and hugged. Harry gripped the still sopping back of Ron's jacket. And now, said Harry as they broke apart, all we've got to do is find the tent again. But it was not difficult. Though they walked through the dark forest with the doe had seemed lengthy. With Ron by his side, the journey back seemed to take seemingly short time. Harry could not wait to wake Hermione, and it was quickening excitement as they entered the tent, Ron lagging a little behind him. It was gloriously warm after the pool and the forest. The only illumination, the blue bell flames, still shimmering in a bowl on the floor. Hermione was fast asleep, curled up under her blankets, and did not move until Harry had said her name several times. Hermione. She stood and then sat up quickly, pushing her hair out of her face.
What's wrong, Harry? Are you all right?
It's okay. Everything's fine. More than fine. I'm great. There's someone here.
What do you mean? Who?
She saw Ron, who stood there holding the sword, dripping onto the threadbare carpet. Harry backed into the shadowy corner, slipped off Ron's rucksack, and attempted to blend into the canvas. Hermione slid out of her bunk and moved like a sleepwalker towards Ron, her eyes upon his pale face. She stopped right in front of him, her lips slightly parted, her eyes wide. Ron gave a weak, hopeful smile and raised his arms. Hermione launched herself forward and started punching every inch of him that she could. Ow! Oh, God! What? Hermione! Ow!
You complete ass, Ron Weasley!
She punctuated every word with a blow, and Ron backed away, shielding his head as Hermione advances.
You crawl back here after weeks and weeks. Oh, where's my wand?
She looked as though she was ready to wrestle it out of Harry's hands as he reacted instinctively. Protego! The invisible shield erupted between Ron and Hermione. The force of it knocked her backward onto the floor. Spitting hair out of her mouth, she leapt up again. Hermione, said Harry, calm.
I will not calm down,
she screamed. Never before had he seen her lose control like this. She looked quite demented.
Give me back my wand. Give it to me.
Hermione, will you please?
Don't tell me what to do, Harry Potter,
she screeched.
Don't you dare. Give it back to me now, and you,
she said, pointing at Ron in dire accusation. It was like a malediction, and Harry could not blame Ron for retreating several steps.
I came running after you. I called you. I begged you to come back.
Oh no, Ron said. Hermione, I'm sorry. I'm really...
Oh, you're sorry?
She laughed in a high-pitched, out-of-control sound. Ron looked at Harry for help, but Harry merely grimaced his helplessness.
Come back after weeks. Weeks. And you think it's all going to be all right if you say sorry.
Well, what else can I say? Ron shouted, and Harry was glad that Ron was fighting back.
Oh, I don't know,
yelled Hermione in awful sarcasm.
Rack your brains, Ron. That you should only take a couple of seconds.
Hermione, interjected Harry, who considered this a low blow. He just say,
I don't care, she screamed. I don't care what he's done. Weeks and weeks. We could have been dead for all he knew.
I knew you weren't dead, bellowed Ron, drowning her voice for the first time, and approaching as close as he could with a shield charm between them. Harry's all over the Prophet, all over the radio. They're looking for you everywhere, all these rumours and mental stories. I knew I'd hear straight off if you were dead. You don't know what it's been like.
What it's been like for you.
Her voice was now shrill, only bats would be able to hear it soon. But she had reached a level of indignation that rendered her temporarily speechless, and Ron seized this opportunity. I wanted to come back the minute I disapparated, but I walked straight into a gang of snatchers, Hermione. I couldn't go anywhere.
A gang of what?
Asked Harry as Hermione threw herself down into the chair, with her arms and legs crossed so tightly it seemed unlikely that she would unravel them for several years. Snatchers, said Ron. They're everywhere. Gangs trying to earn gold by rounding up muggle-borns and blood traitors. There's a reward at the Ministry for everyone captured. I was on my own and I looked like I might be school age. They got really excited, thought I was muggle-born and hardened. I had to talk fast to get out of being dragged to the Ministry.
What did you say to them?
Told them I was Stan Shumpart, first person I could think of.
And they believed that?
Well, they weren't the brightest. First one of them was definitely part troll with smell off him. Ron glanced at Hermione, clearly hopeful she might soften at this small instance of humour, but her expression remained stony above her tightly knotted limbs. Anyway, I had to row about whether I was Stan or not. It was a bit pathetic, to be honest, but there were still 5 of them and only 1 of me, and they'd taken my wand. The only one of them Then 2 of them got into a fight while the other were distracted. I managed to hit one holding me in the stomach and the others were distracted, and I managed to grab my wand, disarm the bloke holding mine, disapparated. I didn't do it so well, splinched myself again. Ron held up his right hand, showing 2 missing fingernails. Hermione raised her eyebrows coldly. And I came out miles from where you were. By the time I got back to a bit of the riverbank where we'd been, you'd gone.
Gosh, what a gripping story,
Said Hermione, she said in a lofty voice, adopted when wishing to wound.
You must have been simply terrifying. Meanwhile, we went to Godric's Hollow, and let's think what happened there, Harry. Oh, yes, you know whose snake turned up and nearly killed both of us. And then you know who himself arrived and missed us by nearly a second.
What? Said Ron, gaping from her to Harry, but Hermione ignored him.
Imagine losing fingernails, Harry. That really puts our suffering in perspective, doesn't it?
Hermione, Harry said quietly, Ron just saved my life. She appeared not to have heard him.
Oh, one thing I would like to know, though,
she said, fixing her eyes on a spot a foot over Ron's head.
How exactly did you find us tonight? That's important. Once we know, we'll be able to make sure we're not visited by anyone else we don't want to see.
Ron glared at her, then pulled a small silver object from his jeans pocket. This, he said. She had looked at Ron to see what he was showing them.
The Deluminator?
She asked, so surprised she forgot to look cold and fierce. It doesn't just turn lights on and off, said Ron. I don't know how it works or why it happened then and not any other time, but I've been wanting to come back here ever since I left. But I was listening to the radio really early on Christmas morning. I heard you. He was looking at Hermione.
You heard me on the radio?
She asked incredulously. No, I heard you coming out of my pocket, your voice. He held up the Deluminator again. It came out of this.
And what exactly was I saying?
Asked Hermione, her tone somewhere between skepticism and curiosity. My name, Ron, and you said something about a wand. Hermione turned a fiery shade of scarlet, and he remembered. It had been the first time Ron's name had been said aloud by either of them since the day he left. Hermione had mentioned it when talking about repairing Harry's wand. So I took it out, said Ron, as he went on, looking at the Deluminator. And it didn't seem any different or anything, but I was sure I heard you, so I clicked it, and the light went out into my room. But another light appeared right outside the window. Ron raised his empty hand and pointed it in front of him, his eyes focused on something neither Harry nor Hermione could see. It was a ball of light, kind of pulsing and bluish, like that light you get around a portkey, you know? Yeah, said Harry and Hermione together automatically. Well, I knew this was it, said Ron. I grabbed my stuff and packed it, and I put on my rucksack and went out into the garden. A little ball of light was hovering there, waiting for me, and when I came out, it bobbed along a bit, and I followed it behind the shed, and then it went inside me. Sorry? Said Harry, sure he had not heard it correctly. It sort of floated toward me, said Ron, illustrating the movement with his free index finger, right into my chest, and then it just went straight through. It was here. He touched a point close to his heart. I could feel it. It was hot. And once it went inside me, I knew what I was supposed to do. I knew it would take me where I needed to go, so I disapparated and came out on the side of the hill. There was snow everywhere. We were there, said Harry. We spent 2 nights there. And the second night, I kept thinking I could hear someone moving around in the dark and calling out. Yeah, well, that would have been me, said Ron. Your protective spells worked anyway, because I couldn't see you and I couldn't hear you. I was sure you were around, though. So, in the end, I got in my sleeping bag and waited for you to appear. I thought you'd have shown yourselves when you packed up the tent.
No, actually, said Hermione. We've been disapparating under the invisibility cloak as an extra precaution. And we left really early because, as Harry says, we had heard somebody blundering about. Well, I stayed on that hill all day, said Ron. I kept hoping you'd appear, but when it started to go dark, I knew I must have missed you, so I clicked the deluminator again. The blue light came out and went inside me, and I disapparated and arrived here, in these woods. I couldn't see you, so I just had to hope that one of you would show yourselves in the end, and Harry did. When I saw the doe first, obviously. You saw the what? Said Hermione sharply. They explained what had happened as the story of the silver doe and the sword in the pool unfolded. Hermione frowned from one to the other of them, concentrating so hard she forgot to keep her limbs locked together. But it must have been a Patronus, she said. Couldn't you see who was casting it? Didn't you see anyone? It led you to the sword. It can't believe this. Then what happened? Ron explained how he had watched Harry jump into the pool and had waited for him to resurface. How he had realized that something was wrong and dived in and saved Harry, and then returned for the sword. He got as far as the opening of the locket and then hesitated, and Harry cut in. And Ron stabbed it with a sword. And it went, just like that, she whispered. Well, it screamed, said Harry with a half glance at Ron. Here. He threw the locket onto her lap. Gingerly, she picked it up and examined its punctured windows. Deciding that it was at last safe to do so, Harry removed the shield charm with a wave from Hermione's wand and turned to Ron. Did you say you got away from the Snatchers with a spare wand? What? Said Ron, who had been watching Hermione examining the locket. Oh, yeah. He tugged open a buckle on his rucksack and pulled a short, dark wand out of his pocket. Here. I figured it's always handy to have a backup. You were right, said Harry, holding out his hand. Mine's broken. No kidding, said Ron, but at that moment Hermione got to her feet and he looked apprehensive again. Hermione put the vanquished Horcrux into the beaded bag and then climbed back into her bed and settled down without another word. Ron passed Harry the new wand. About as best as you could hope for, I think, murmured Harry. Yeah, said Ron. Could have been worse. Remember those birds she set on me? I still haven't ruled it out, came Hermione's muffled voices from beneath her blankets. But Harry saw Ron smiling slightly as he pulled his maroon pajamas out of his rucksack. And there we are at the end of chapter 19. Well done, my friends. Almost precisely to the letter. Smelly Pete, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. Vets, thank you kindly, my friend. Oh, not gonna lie, not really a fan of Ron Weasley. Calamitous, it's good to see you, my friend. Yeah, Ron is a bit of a grater in the... I'd say the latter three books, he gets to be a little bit irritating. Welcome back, Santana, my friends. Alex, true, but we're still there. Oh. Alright, well, that is all for stories. Let's get Santana his song. And then I will send you all off out into the world, my friends. Hopefully, fully storied and prepared to face the next day. A caviar! Call me Ace, I'm a raider from Styx's Raid. I enjoyed listening to you read. Well, a caviar, Ace, I appreciate you. Thank you kindly. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday, and so I hope we'll see you back. I see you marked us on your map, so I appreciate you for the follow. We'll look forward to seeing you back again, my friend. Vets, thank you for the tips over on TikTok, my friend. I appreciate you. I was turned off when he turned on Harry during Goblet of Fire. Yeah, I agree, Calamitous. Ron has no character growth, it seems, until this book. Wow, that was an incredible chapter. Thank you, Castle. Truly, you are the best. Of course, Esther. Always my pleasure. Close to being done. Basic edits now. Excellent. Alright, guys. I gotta get running, so let's get Santana his song, and I'll send you off out into the world. Here we go. How much time do we have before the ads? We've got 54 seconds. Alright, we'll snooze them when they come about. The mods, barkeeps, snooze the ads when they come up. We're gonna do Leave Her Johnny for Santana. Now, for those of you who've never been here before,
we do songs after we're done. Now we don't sing well. We sing to have a good time. Thank you, Frost. I appreciate you. And as was requested by our dear friend Santana to mellow out his difficult year, we're gonna sing "Leave Her Johnny." So if you know the words, sing along with me, my friends. We of course do the short version. The long version is like 15 verses long. Oh, and we're gonna mute the music because that's gonna be a bit much. Alright, here we go. I thought I heard the old man say, "Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Tomorrow you will get your pay, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Oh, the wind was foul and the sea ran high. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. She shipped it green and none went by, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. I hate to sail on this rotten tub. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. No grog allowed and rotten grub, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. We swear by our oath, for want of more. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. But now we're through, so we'll go on shore, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Thank you for the song, my friends. Absolutely lovely. So many new folks in the tavern with us tonight. I appreciate you all for joining us. Again, for all of you who are new, I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a story. This is a place at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. And you were brought here because you desired a story. The tavern chose you to carry these out like lanterns into the world. And now, if you've marked us on your map, you should be able to find your way back again the next time that you seek a story. Thank you, Calamitous. I appreciate you. Thank you for that. No snoozing needed, Great Frost. Santana, you're absolutely welcome, my friend. I have every faith that your year, starting today, is going to get better and better because you're going to become stronger. You're going to learn from your past trials, and you're going to push into tomorrow with absolutely exceptional tenacity, my friend. Thank you as always for the Story Castle. I will return on Sunday per usual. Rest well, Tavern family. Thank you to our barkeeps who hold up the bar for us and keep everyone safe, libated, and entertained when my head is down. Thank you all for your time. I'm not going to let the ads run. We're going to snooze those again. And I'm going to get you all out of here in less than 5 minutes. So if you are with us over on the Twitch store, we'll raid out to share the love. It's so many wonderful raiders coming this evening. To everyone who tipped the Tavern Keeper, thank you kindly, my friends. Your support is deeply appreciated. To everyone who came in to enjoy the stories, it's absolutely wonderful to have you. Happy New Year, my friends. It was great to see you all. Join us again for Waffles and for Storytime with a Lady on Sunday. And I look forward to seeing you all then. And in the meantime, I will see you in our other story times that come out throughout the week. If you are with us on any of the other portals except for the live streaming ones, we put out stories just about every day. Thank you for the incredible evening filled with captivating storytelling and delightful shanties. Always a pleasure, Esther. Thank you for your generosity, friends. Let's see if we have any friends over on Twitch that we can raid out and share the love with. Falcor is on, so we will go and give Falcor a raid. Why not? Gonna start this raid up. Alright, my friends. Thank you all for being here. Deranged Ext arrangement. Good keeper, sir. Do you accept DMs? I started playing D&D and have a character story for my orc, and I'd love for him to visit your tavern. Certainly, send me a message, Deranged. It takes me a while to get back to them, but if I know they're coming in, then not quite as at all. Alright, friends. Shadow, it's good to see you, brother. Rest well. Chemians, good night. To all of you who are still with us, I bid you all rest well, and while it is sad that we are parting, we will again return the next time that you all seek a story. So until then, I will bid you all stay bloodthirsty, my friends, and I will see you next time. Good night.
A calming angry I'm sorry, guys. I get really it's just but also Mitch, thank you for the follow, and Black Draken, welcome in. Hello. Thank you for the raid. No, you're so right. Nudity is allowed in games.